So for the first year and a half, I'd say, of my training, I was following a typical high volume approach. In other words, I basically just did 4 sets on every exercise, not really paying attention to intensity. And the thing is, I actually grew from this. I hit my 2-plate bench, I would get good DOMs, I get great pumps. But then after that first year and a half of newbie gains and everything is sunshines and rainbows, I plateaued hard. No matter how much volume I added to my workouts, no matter how many times I switched exercises for alternatives, nothing was working. For almost a year, I did not see any progress. And long story short, it was only after I drastically lowered my volume, upped the intensity of each individual set, and upped my frequency as well, that I began to see progress again. And I was actually shocked at how quickly I was seeing progress. Mind you, this was my 3rd year of training, so by then I had already got all my newbie gains, and yet I was eating more, spending less time in the gym, doing less cardio, and I was getting bigger at a quicker rate than I ever had. To illustrate how this works, let's take a bloke who's been training for 6 months. Once per week, he hits legs and he does 4 sets of 8 reps on the hack squat with 100 kg. So his total volume per session is 4 times 8 times 100, which is 3,200 kilograms per session. And because he only trains legs once a week, his total monthly volume is 12,800 kilograms per month. Let's say after a year, his hack squat maybe increases to 135 kg. 4 sets times 8 reps times 135 kg is a weekly volume of 4,320 kilograms, which is a monthly volume of 17,280 kilograms. Now let's imagine that that same bloke switched to the high intensity approach instead of continuing with a high volume approach. He starts with the same weight, so 100 kg on the hack squat, except this time instead of doing 4 fluffy sets, he takes 2 sets to absolute failure. To begin with, his volume is 2 sets times 8 reps times 100 kg, which is 1,600 kilograms per session. But instead of training once a week, this bloke hits legs twice every 10 days. That's around 6 leg sessions per month. 1,600 kg times 6 equals 9,600 kilograms per month. Obviously, at first, his monthly volume is less. But instead of just going through the motions, this bloke tracks every rep he does, every weight he does. And each time he repeats the exercise, he makes sure to beat his previous performance, either by adding a small bit of weight or by doing 1 more rep next session. Given that, it's not at all unrealistic to assume that after a year training this way, he'll be hitting 180 kg on the hack squat for 8 reps. Assuming that he does, that's 2 sets times 8 reps times 180 kg, which is 2,880 kilograms per session, times by 6 is, funnily enough, 17,280 kilograms per month. So in reality, both blokes are doing the same amount of total monthly volume, except one is markedly stronger, and by extension, it is almost certain that he is markedly bigger. Because remember, mechanical tension is the primary driver of muscle growth. So even though some studies say that if volume is the same, the results will be the same, speaking from experience, that is just simply not true. The only way I was able to build this level of muscle density naturally was by heavy loading, meaning lifting heavy weights and making sure I'm getting stronger every session. This is how you target the muscle fibers with the greatest growth potential. A quick word on rest between sets. I tend to rest 2 to 4 minutes between sets to really catch my breath and recover so that I can attack my next set with full intensity. And since my goal is to hit my target rep range and be strong, I don't rush my rest periods. It's better to rest a little longer and ensure that you hit your target reps than to jump the gun too quick and waste the set by missing your target rep. If I stall on a particular exercise, I swap it out for a similar one. So let's say I stall on the incline dumbbell press. If I can't break that plateau after a couple weeks of trying, I'll swap that exercise out for an incline Smith press. I now push the incline Smith press as hard as I can until I also stall on that movement, which will usually take a few months. And then I swap back to the incline dumbbell press, and this almost always helps me break past my strength plateau. Also, if my nutrition, my supplementation, my stress, my sleep are all dialed in, and if I'm in a calorie surplus, I throw in some intensity techniques to take the muscle beyond failure to further increase muscle damage. This may take the form of forced reps or negative only reps if I'm training with a friend, but usually I'm training by myself, which means that I normally stick to either a drop set, a rest pause, or a muscle round per workout. A rest pause is when you take a weight to failure. Let's say you've hit failure on your machine chest press at 8 reps. You take 10 deep breaths, and then using the same weight, you go again till failure. If you want to go really crazy, then you can do a 2-point rest pause, which is essentially a repetition of what you just did. A muscle round is when you do, let's say, 5 reps of 5 with 10-second rest between sets, what I typically do is a muscle round for my seated dumbbell side raise. So I'll take a weight that I can normally do 25 straight reps, let's say. The goal here is to get 5 full sets and then hit failure on your 6th set. The first few sets should feel manageable. You should hit 8 reps, but then your 5th and 6th sets, it should be much harder. For example, on your 6th set, let's say you hit 4 reps instead. Next time you do it, use that same weight and try to complete all 6 sets. Conversely, if on your 6th set you're able to do more than 8 reps, then make sure you just go to failure on that 6th set and use a slightly higher weight next time. Keep in mind that doing multiple sets per muscle group to failure per session is going to require at least 48 to 72 hours of rest before training that muscle group again. Another thing I've learned is that by adjusting my frequency to a higher frequency, like 4 to 5 days as opposed to 2 to 3 days, I'm able to maintain a weekly volume, but distribute that volume across more days, which means that my fatigue per session is less, which improves my recovery between sessions. The concept of maximum recoverable volume, Dr. Mike Israetel talks about it a lot, refers to the highest amount of training your body can recover from between cycles. That's why I really recommend that you track your lifts, because by tracking your lifts, you're able to see when performance is dropping off, which means that it is likely time for a deload. For example, every 3 to 4 months, I consistently stall on multiple lifts. I feel tired all the time. I feel demotivated. I'm lethargic. I don't really sleep well. And typically my tracking will show this. It will show that I haven't hit my target rep range for weeks. In fact, sometimes it will show that I have gone weaker. And that's when I take 1 to 2 weeks completely off the gym. You're not weak for taking a deload. You're actually smart, because you'll realize that after coming back from your deload, you may even be bigger than you were before your deload, and sooner or later you will be stronger. Honestly, if I don't need a deload after 3 to 4 months of hard training, I know I haven't been training hard enough. So make sure to track everything, review your tracking regularly so that you can find out your limits, i.e. your recovery capacity. Can you take every set to failure? Can you train 5 days a week? If you are making progress, i.e. if you're getting stronger, then continue what you're doing. But if you feel that you could be making more progress, it is likely that you may be doing too much, in which case you can adjust your frequency, volume, and intensity accordingly and go from there. Finally, if you're underfed, if you're stressed, if you're lacking key nutrients, and if your nutrition is not on point and you're trying to train like this 4 to 5 times a week, you will not grow.